What's up, guys, and welcome back. And yes, as you can see from the title, the final episode of What If Naruto was a Uchiha that created his own village. I just want to say thank you, guys. It's been an awesome, amazing ride, and you guys have been just so awesome with it. But every good things must come to an end, so here it is, guys. The final episode. Speaking of ending and starting a new beginning, there's a new series over on Anime King of What If Naruto Was the Lion Sin of Pride. So go ahead and check it out and enjoy, guys, over on Anime King. And if you're new, yes, I indeed have 3 more channels. All the links will be down in the description, so if you want more what ifs, go ahead and check them out. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification to see exactly when I post. So without further ado or wasting more time, how about we jump right into this? Begin now, guys. So the last part that we left off, Naruto was devastated. He was fuming as he came across the land that had just been ravaged. Upon finding one of the survivors, Naruto was able to get some answers. The monsters that attacked the land, their body were made up from sand. After being hit, physical attacks would not take them down. It was ninjutsu base that they had to use, but after they came, the others came from the sky. The one to the wing, and they rained destruction down upon them. As Naruto was furious, he promised the man that he would make them all pay for what they did, as it was a promise that he was not willing to break. We then skipped towards a committee that was aiming to the downfall of the Uchiha nation and their allies. Danzo Shimura was there. Orochimaru. The Sand was forcefully dragged into this, as Baki, who had taken up the reins as a Kazekage, could not do anything about it. Danzo had threatened him and his own village as well, and using Gaara as a pawn. And he said that it was the most they could do for their reprimand for attacking the village, despite the fact that Danzo was working with none other than Orochimaru. However, it was his way or the highway, and the Sand was not in a position to currently fight back at the moment, so they had to do as they were told. However, Baki sent word. It was Kankuro who got captured. However, it was deliberate. Kankuro gave Naruto all the information. The Sand wanted nothing to do with this war. They did not want it to be involved. They just wanted to make sure that he knew that, because they knew that all hell was going to break loose very soon. So they want to ensure that their village was safe, as he gave Naruto every single ounce of information that he had. Going after one of Naruto's strongest allies, going after the Land of Spring, Danzo was brave enough to make a move, sending the strange creations of the One and Seven Tails as the beast started to rush towards the village. However, the defenses were enough to hold them off. That is when Naruto finally showed up, as he started to wipe all of them out, producing red flames that destroy, not just burn. He incinerated an entire army. That is when the aircrafts arrive and release specialized chakra bombs that wipe away an entire platoon of Danzo's men. As Naruto stood there, his people were spreading all over their allies. As this was just a trick though, given the current information that they now knew from Kankuro. They knew what Danzo was playing at, and they were going to play this rather perfectly. However, there was something that Danzo had kept away from everyone else. A surprise that he was going to use to bring Naruto down, as he didn't feel like sharing that information. That was something that he was keeping to himself. Same like how he was keeping his partnership of Orochimaru away from Konoha, given the fact that Orochimaru was the cause of Hiruzen's death. However, it was different times now. But he knew that if he'd tell, and if they found out, they would wage a coup against him. And he couldn't afford any infighting right now. So, as Danzo called his men and prepared his forces, he started to send the army, believing that Naruto and his forces were just coming back, but it was nothing but a distraction. They had already used transportation seals to get home. So with that, Danzo and his people start to attack. The defenses held up well, as the tailed beasts all could feel the chakra and the army swirling, given the fact that they were also a part of the same chakra that was created from the 10 tails. They could feel the abominations that were created, and they decided to help. Naruto did not ask for their help as he promised that he would never use them as a weapon, but they decided to step in and help. Danzo or the others were not expecting this, not at all, as they watched the tail beasts came out and obliterated a quarter of their army. It was a good thing that they did not put any life in jeopardy, just the abominations that they created. With that on the way, Naruto was speaking to his son, as he told him to be brave because the others here, they're also scared as well. But he, just like how he said that he wanted to become the leader to protect everyone, he had to be able to protect them now in these dangerous moments. So he stepped up as Naruto headed off. As he kissed his lovely wife, he promised that he would return, as he then felt a throbbing sensation around his eye where he was sliced when he was much younger. Naruto was shocked as he made his way out there. As the remaining forces started to gather, Kira started to send ninjas, and the other forces, as this was where the final showdown was going to happen. The Land of Rain people start to arrive as well. There was chaos all over as Naruto walked his way out there, as he came across 2 coffins that reveal his grandfather. But not just his grandfather, his father as well. His name, Indra Uchiha, as Indra stood there, as he seemed to have this hatred or grudge for Naruto just by the way that he spoke and addressed him. However, Naruto had to remind him that he's been dead a long time, and this wasn't going to be like the past where he always bullied him because he was young and weak. Things are different, as Madara was just there to fight for the moment. Soon he will enact his plan, but he would like to see the power of his grandson. The fact that his grandson was able to put so many together for them to harness their power and hide away because they were so fearful of him. Madara was rather proud. However, Naruto's father, Indra, he was far from it, as he seemed to despise Naruto's very existence. It was always something with him. However, Naruto was done talking as he was about to finish this right here and now, as all of them prepared themselves before they thrust themselves into battle. So yeah guys, basically as we left off, you guys can switch across the place, check it out for yourself. So to begin this new episode, anger, jealousy, fear, emotions that could tamper with the understanding of one's mind, cause them to move in ways that they would have never moved in the first place. At the moment, standing, gazing out towards what is to come, the Sannin Jiraiya stood there. Jiraiya found himself at a loss. He knew in his heart that Danzo Shiramura would bring chaos to the elemental nation, but what he did, he backed him. Despite what Sensei went through with that man, he still backed him. And now, look what they got themselves into. Behind him was an army consisting of the sand, Konoha, Kumo and the stone, and several other allies. However, in front of them were inhumane, creations. The same inhumane creations that put an end to Hiruzen Sarutobi. And yet here he was, fighting on that side. And now it was too late to stop this. There was two ways that this was going to end. One, the Uchiha nation and their people are all wiped out, along with their allies, which would count up to thousands upon thousands. Two, Konoha and their forces, and all of the other resistance get crushed. Given the last time that an attack like this was thrown at the Uchiha nation, they decided to let it go. As much as he did not like Naruto or respect him for his actions that led up to this path, he let it go. He allowed them to walk away even after they tried to butcher his people. And now, the Sannin stood there. Unfortunately though, there was nothing really he could do. There was nothing that he could do to stop what was about to happen, because it had already started and he found himself at a complete loss. While Jiraiya was having his dilemma, there was a war unlike any other being raged. The abominations that were created from the One and Seven Tails were raining hell down on the forces. All of the ships had came to dock, all of the aircrafts. Kiri had arrived, sending their additional manpower. This is where everything was going to be put on the line. Mei Terumi arrived on the battlefield as well. Because of all that Naruto and his people have done, she was confident to know that her village was going to be secure. So she would stand by his side through this. As she started to give out orders to her men after listening to Itachi, sensors started to pinpoint the ones that were hovering in the sky. As flaming arrows started to take them down, chakra cannons started to blast them from the sky. A roar was heard. Utakata, the sixth-tailed Jinchuriki, having been found some time ago by Mei forces to return to the village, was on the battlefield as well. As much as he did not like war, the main reason why he ran away in the first place, this was something that he had to do, as he recently became a master, accepting a girl that was known as Hodoro as his student, and he refused to allow her to die when they came to his village doorstep. So he was going to end this, his body taking on a purplish hue, his features vanishing as he split and ripped through the chakra monsters, tearing them from piece to piece without hesitation. As the reanimation started to attack, he brought his hand down and slammed it into the water, kicking up a massive uproar. With the distraction, he wrapped around their forms. As his body was able to elongate, they started to burn. He shouted a gutter roar, "Now!" The sealing core jumped in as they immediately seal away the reanimations, trapping them away. Boom! There was an explosion as something hit the water like a cannonball. A member of the Uzumaki sealing core was sent sailing, screaming in agony as he was electrocuted. Standing on the surface of the water was the third Raikage, and he wasn't alone. The former Mizukage and the former Tishikage was also there as well. As Utakata took a step back, having evaded the brutal attack, Utakata watched as the man thrust towards him with his finger uphold, ready to pierce right through him. Every single emotion within the Kages were suppressed, completely to make sure that they wouldn't be able to fight back or even have a secondary thought than the one that Orochimaru programmed into their head, which was to kill. The Raikage was moving at incredible speed as he arrived, ready to puncture right through Utakata. However, his path was stopped when suddenly, shooting out of the water was papers. But these were no ordinary papers, as they immediately went in an explosion. The Raikage was thrown with an abnormal force. But it wasn't done yet. Landing right between both of the former Kages was a red-haired individual. Without even saying a word, he sent them sailing with a massive gravitational force. Standing there now was Conan and also Nagato as well. As the rain ninjas started to arrive on the battlefield over to the other side. Amaterasu. His words came out soft, but the inferno erupted and swallowed over a dozen of the abominations, burning them. Itachi glanced over towards his younger brother, who wasn't so young anymore. Sasuke was holding a katana in his hand. His Sharingan activated as both brothers' eyes connected. They both blur out of sight as they started descend upon the battlefield, blazing away right towards the opposing forces. It was chaos all around. Uzumaki's Uchihas, no longer separated by their name, they were all one of the Uzuchi nation, along with those that weren't even from any of the clans. Standing by Tsunade was Urza, as she was bringing back those who were injured on the battlefield, moving them towards a medical bay. So far, unfortunately, they have lost 3 members on their side, as the wave of enemies did not seem to be slowing down anytime soon. And with the reanimations coming their way, things were becoming more and more difficult. That is when they felt it, an enormous amount of power. The shocking realization as everyone came to a stop, everyone that was drawing breath. As they gazed up towards the heavens, a colossal meteor. Moments earlier, Naruto was moving with incredible speed as he clashed both hands as he deflected his grandfather and his father. Their hands connected with such force, the water beneath them rumbled and exploded outwards. All of their Sharingan locked on each other. Naruto ducked and twists, gripping Madara's arm. However, his father tried to grab him, so he pushed Madara in the way, who skidded on the water like it was stone as he lashed out with a feet, but Naruto caught it and flipped him. Madara spun before throwing a feet towards Naruto's face. Naruto slapped it in the air only for his father to kick him right in his chest. As he was flipping across the water, Madara arrived above him and brought his leg down. Naruto caught it though and slammed the kick into his chin. He then drove Madara's head down into the water as he used it as a stepping stool and flip above his father's brutal kick. Suspended in mid-air, Naruto's eyes were moving as fast as they could. His father crossed his arm as Naruto's feet slammed into his guard, throwing him back. He crashed on top of the water as Madara flipped away and landed on his feet, looking rather amused by the whole situation. As I said before, "You've been dead for a long time," said Naruto, looking toward his father. However, Indra scoffed as he looked at Naruto. "You think this measly amount of power that you now possess is something to be proud of? You have absolutely no idea the amount of power I wield, why the entire nation fear my name. You've been nothing but a disappointment from the moment you were born, and it seems I've been brought back to set certain wrongs, starting with you. Why don't you give it a try, old man," said Naruto, "and let us see who would be put down." Both Madara and Indra raised their hand as they flashed two-hand sign, mimicking each other as they release an inferno unlike any other before. However, Indra kicked it up a notch as his flames started to turn red, and Naruto was right in the center. However, the next moment, Madara felt something. Indra also felt something. Their Sharingan was able to see the gap in their chakra. Said gap was expanding and expanding until it was pulled together. Two violent forces overlapping with one another, causing Indra and Madara to be pulled when the gap realigned itself as it bounced back like a rubber band. They slammed against each other right in the center where Naruto was, as Naruto was now in mid-air. Their bodies were severely hit by the flames, as Naruto was floating downwards when suddenly he crossed his arm as a blue fist slammed into his guard, throwing him as he bounced across the ocean. Naruto flipped and landed on his feet when 10 fireballs were launched towards him as he flipped and jumped out of the way. Standing there, completely unharmed, was Madara, protected by his Susanoo, which Indra was currently standing within as well. As the both of them looked at Naruto, the Susanoo seemed to fade as they dashed outwards. A rather brutal engagement of fists and legs, as the three of them clash, both of them being incredibly powerful in their own rights. Naruto could not afford to hold back this much as he started to kick it up a notch. Markings started to appear on his face as he started to tap into the sage energy, as Naruto sent the both of them sailing with a powerful blow, bursting his arm right through his father's shoulder like it was made of nothing but paper. His strength had increased dramatically. Naruto flashed towards them before they could even blink, as he slammed a foot in Madara's chest and backhanded his father, lashing out with his hand. Blurring through hand sign, Naruto spew bullet of flames that slammed through Madara. Naruto then flashed toward his father and appeared above him as he sent him crashing into the ocean. He then rushed towards the Uchiha, who immediately enveloped himself with his Susanoo. The first fist came down as Naruto flipped and landed on it. He ran up it, but the second fist came swinging as Naruto jumped. However, the third fist came. Naruto blinked away using pure raw speed as he appeared above the thing. However, there was others. Two more fists that came swinging towards Naruto. He dodged the first, but the second one sent him sailing. That is when his father exploded out of the water, his eyes changing to the Mangekyou as he created an orange Susanoo. Only the top half. Naruto was black-handed with such force. He crashed along the water. However, his body was revigorated and empowered by sage energy. Blurring through hand sign, Naruto erupted what seemed to be the entire ocean, but on closer inspection it was a wood style. It came out like an entire island right on the seaboard. Both Madara and Indra had to immediately release their Susanoo, as they had to move as the vines threatened to break them in half. They twist and jump and dodge and flip, evading the vines that were coming after them like a wild animal. They both jumped in the air as Naruto appeared above them with a sage-enhanced punch. He slammed it in Indra's chest. The force traveled through his body as he was sent rocketing downwards, crashing into the island as a wood release held on to him. As a clone of Naruto was down there, Madara spun and lashed out, immediately blurring through hand sign in mid-air, releasing an inferno to erase the entire island. With Naruto right in the path, however, Naruto opened a gap right through the technique and delivered a brutal strike that broke his armor. Naruto then slammed the uppercut under his chin. He spun and kicked him across. Madara spun as he flipped and landed on his feet. He dashed forward as they engaged in taijutsu, ripping the island apart as their fists and legs collided with tremendous force. Once again, their clash caused the both of them to be pushed back as his father erupted out of the vines. Madara was smiling throughout the whole thing Unlike your father over there, my rather ignorant son, I am truly impressed by you, boy, he said. You've truly earned the title of being my grandson. However, I would like to see how far this strength of yours stretch. Madara said, flaring his Susanoo, as Indra jumped over towards the other side. Show me the depths of your power, he said as he summoned a meteor from the heavens. Everyone was shocked. As Naruto stood there, his gaze snapped up as he watched the thing falling down towards the ground. You intend on taking us out as well? Indra said, looking towards him. Of course. We will simply reanimate. That is if your son won't be able to stop it. Indra scoffed as he did not say anything. As Naruto looked up into the heavens, as he simply stood there, the power that was oozing from Naruto stopped. As his entire body went still, the markings on his face, they started to glow. The island that they were now standing on that was created by Naruto started to slowly die. The branches and trees started to simply crumble away. It seems like Naruto's body was being infested by something, but it was actually the nature energy that he was drawing. Opening up his eyes, his Mangekyou Sharingan was swirling as Naruto looked towards the giant meteor and opened one of the largest gaps between the meteor and the ocean. He then targeted it. The right end of the gap went to the meteor and the left end went to the ocean. Naruto stretched it as far as it could stretch. When it snapped back together, the meteor was obliterated, raining down large chunks and pieces. That took a lot out of Naruto, yet he still stood firm on his feet. However, Madara smirked. That cannot be all, can it? Well, I guess we will have to see. Because here it comes, he said. Another one followed right after. The people were once again put in a state of shock and fear. After just believing that it was over, but now, here was another one that seemed to be twice the size. As Madara stood there, watching Naruto carefully, his gaze was one that could not be read easily. As he watched him, Indra seemed to be in a constant state of anger, as the very existence of Naruto seemed to anger him for some reason. Well, there was a big reason. Indra was shocked though when he saw Naruto's entire form immersed in red flames. As Naruto bent his knees before, taking off with a force that erupted the ocean. His entire body seemed to be a rocket as he shot upwards. Naruto's entire body became submerged to the point where you could not see him as he slammed into the thing and pushed inwards. Everyone held their breath until a monstrous roar that sounded like a dragon as the thing exploded outwards. The force blasted everything away. Naruto stood there as he seemingly catch his breath as he descended from the sky. But it didn't seem like he was falling. It seemed like he was hovering downwards. His face and eyes seemed to be covered, as there was a lot of dust and smoke, and the rain and debris. A lot of the abominations were caught up, crushed and destroyed, as the forces of the rocks, now covered by red flames, were enough to snuff their life out completely. It was chaos down below. His people were well protected, as they threw up several barriers. They had complete faith in their leader after all. Naruto landed on his feet, as Madara stood there, as he seemed to be truly happy. Yes, he didn't seem sad, he seemed rather delighted at what he just witnessed. It seems that the fun is just beginning, he said. Come, let us keep on dancing. He dashed towards Naruto, Indra following right after, as he seemed to be getting more and more angrier the time go by. As they started to clash once again, Their battle seemed to drag on for a long hours, but it was only minutes in reality because they were moving at tremendous speed, as Naruto was using a lot of powerful abilities, trying to pin either of them. However, the both of them were fast and incredibly durable, and able to withstand effects that would normally crush or wipe out an entire platoon. So yes, it was immensely hard, as Naruto was suppressing some part of his strength because he knew if he went too much into it, he would be unable to fight the others once he dealt with these reanimations. However, Madara decided to put Naruto to the absolute test, Indra shouting, "Enough of this," he said, as they once again dashed apart, both Indra and Madara looking fresh as ever, while Naruto was scuffed up and seemed to be taking deeper breaths as the battle dragged on. As both men pushed themselves, Indra summoned the power of his Susanoo. The thing reigned supreme and tall, as Madara performed the same feat, his more larger than his son's. Indra's Susanoo possessed a spear, while Madara's Susanoo possessed a blade. Indra's Susanoo possessed a spear. It was dressed in a samurai armor. As it stood tall, its face was hidden away from everyone, as it dwarfed everything. Inside of the hideout while that was going on, Orochimaru was smiling while he had lost a lot of reanimations already. It was finally time to put an end to their greatest force. Once they killed Naruto, the others will fall right after. He was what was giving them strength and hope, so it was time that they annihilate him. Indra, holding up the spear in his hand, Madara pulling out his blade. Naruto decided to respond, as Naruto summoned his Susanoo. Unlike before though, this time he summoned a blade. Yes, this blade was not a katana. It seemed to be a giant butcher blade. The handle was short, but the blade was massive. If it were to land on its side, it would probably flatten the hidden sand or any of the great nations. There would be countless destruction and chaos in its path if it landed on its side. The three titanic beasts stepped forward as everyone held their breath, knowing what was going to come. They moved in before their weapons collided, a shockwave unlike any other. The Uzumakis had put up the barrier right away, knowing that it was needed in this very moment. However, even with the barrier, even with that amount of force, it started to break. Countless others rushed in to help their comrades. Nagato descended into the heavens and released a violent almighty push in order to push away the backlash of the collision. Despite possessing a Rinnegan, this was beyond Nagato, as he watched battle unlike any other rage. However, it wasn't like he was the only one that possessed the Rinnegan. Madara might have the Rinnegan, Indra did not. However, there was someone else. As the three forces collided, Naruto's eyes were closed in the center of his Susanoo, when suddenly they snapped open, his eyes changing. During the battle with the Raikage and the Tishikage, when they were shocked that Naruto was able to destroy the massive particle style, he did not destroy it, instead he simply absorbed it. However, this was no time to waste. Madara and Indra were both shocked, as the sage art started to run through Naruto's Susanoo, but not just that, wood style. Madara was not even able to accomplish his feat. Naruto's Susanoo grew, and grew, and grew, and grew, and then it got empowered by red flames. Indra did not even accomplish that feat. His Susanoo towered over the both of theirs as they tried to attack, but Naruto brought down one attack against theirs and obliterated them. The force. He split the goddamn ocean, as the bottom of the sea was visible for a few long seconds. In the process, he annihilated both of them. Their bodies were ripped to shreds and torn apart. The force was just too overwhelming and too much for them to withstand. Madara's body washed up on the ocean. As he lay there, body was not the correct word. The only thing that he had was his upper torso. His left arm was gone and so was a huge chunk of his left side. Despite that though, the man was laughing. As Naruto rested his hand on his head, as Naruto was clearly exhausted. Before you send me away, I must give you props on entertaining me. Your strength has no rivals. Not even the man that I thought to be so far above that. It was a spectacle battling him. But you have given me a battle that has surpassed anything I had with Hoshirama. I find it rather funny to know that you are my blood and my power run through your veins. While my dream is an utter failure, I accept this defeat as a Uchiha. I accept this defeat from my own blood. This is no longer my time because I fail. The world is now in your hands. But know this, in order to prevent your people or your family from getting hurt, in order to raise the Uchihas for the future, and whoever you wish to raise, all of your enemies must fall. There should be no exceptions, he said to Naruto. As Naruto looked at him, I already know he responded. Before ripping Madara's soul out, slowly reforming over to the side, unable to move, was Indra. As Naruto was slowly stepping towards him, Indra scoffed as he did not speak. As Naruto simply looked at him though, as his body reformed. What are you waiting for? Go ahead and do it. Do you think I was going to beg you for my life? Or beg you to spear me or something like that? Please. As Naruto still looked at him, tell me something. Why? Why what? Indra said. You've always hated me. No matter what happened, no matter what I did. It seems like the moment I came in this world, you simply despised my very presence. Yes, I suppose you're right. Because you took the one thing I loved the most. Naruto looked at him. Your mother knew there would be complications. She was told early. You were sucking on her life force. You were unlike any other normal child. But despite knowing that, she wanted to go through with it. I begged her not to. But she wanted to give birth to you. She wanted to bring you in this world even if it might have cost her life. So yes, I have despised you. I have hated you. Because you took the one thing in this world that I cared about the most, Indra said. Majority of his body was reformed. He lashed out and tried to grab Naruto's neck, but Naruto split his arm completely off. As he gripped him by the head, at least die with some honor, you old miserable fool. Indra opened his mouth, but Naruto ripped his soul clean out. As the body crumbled away in front of him, as Naruto released a breath. That is the reason why he didn't want to use that amount of power. Now his body was exhausted, as he was feeling the strain of the battle. They were reanimations, so it didn't affect them, but those two were legendary warriors that he needed a great amount of force to take care of. That is when he saw someone rushing towards him. It was a reanimation. Before he could say anything, summoning jutsu, he summoned 4 coffins. As the lids fell, stepping out of them were the mindless form of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Hokage. Naruto tried to get up, but immediately the 4th rushed towards him. He tried to move, but a wooden vine grabbed his leg. He was slashed across the chest. Luckily, his armor was still intact. Naruto was then kicked in the face by the second, as the third arrived and slammed right into his back. Naruto crashed on top of the water, losing stability as he fell. As he was falling, he noticed all the attacks raining down towards him. However, all of them were sent away, as they quickly flashed away as a blade swiped towards them. A red blade. Standing there was Itachi. The hand of his Susanoo reached into the water and pulled Naruto out. "No, you can't," Naruto said. "You're in no condition to fight right now." Itachi turned his gaze as someone landed and grabbed Naruto. It was Konan. Naruto looked down as he saw Nagato alongside Itachi. "Don't worry," she said, taking off with him. As Naruto was taken to the medical bay, Urza was in shock when she saw the condition he was in. He looked like he was about to fall over any moment now. Naruto has never been seen in a weakened condition by her. She knew that she should remain strong, but it was a man that she loved after all. As he was quickly brought in, however, someone came rushing out. "Ma'am," he said to Urza. It was a young Chunin of the village, as he had something important to say. After talking to her, Naruto was taken away. Meanwhile, that was going on. Danzo was furious. The fact that he was able to stop those two, and he got away as he shouted towards the others to release the onslaught. Upon saying that, every last Zetsu, every last abominations were released. Their numbers in the thousands. As they started to rush directly towards the opposing forces, while Itachi and Nagato took on the Kages. The forces were tired, and now they had to fight another incredible amount of force. Danzo was getting information from the sensor. As his head was covered, it was three of them, as they were manning a giant bubble that were relaying them with everything. All information was being brought in. The other Kage stood there. The spokesperson for Kumo, Kurosaki, Baki, was there as well. Baki was starting to get worried. The forces were overwhelming and Naruto was taken out of the race. However, despite the odds, despite everything stacked against them, the Uchiha nation stood tall, not backing down, not giving up. As they ready themselves, they prepare themselves when suddenly, all fighting came to a stop. Even the abominations came to a stop. The Zetsus paused. Orochimaru looked up with a sensation of fear. The bubble that was holding the massive force, it exploded. All of them being thrown across the room. The pressure was just too much. Everyone couldn't believe it, as a sensation unlike any other spread. It swallowed the entire place. Whatever this was, it was both terrifying and bone-chilling. Urza turned as she watched something take to the heavens. As a smile came on her face, it was Naruto. As Naruto ascended like a deity, power coursing through every pore of him. Yes, he ascended like a god. Flashback. Naruto was taken to the tail beasts, who had a way to help him. As he was brought inside, Naruto was surrounded by all of them. The first thing that he did, "I want to thank all of you for lending a hand in this battle," he said. They saw the state that he was in and they knew that he couldn't fight anymore. He needed to rest, but his people need him. If you don't go out there and help your people, you might lose. It was the A-tail that spoke. "Well, you guys said that you need to speak to me about something important." Naruto said. But the moment I'm done here, I'll get back to the battlefield. Kurama scoffed. Look at you. Do you really think you can fight in that condition? Naruto got to his feet, defiant and surprised in them. I have to protect my people, he said. They looked at one another. Why not use our power? It's simple. I will not forcefully use your power just like I would not forcefully use any of my own comrades. It doesn't matter what the world or anyone thinks. Beings like yourself are not mindless killing machines who deserve to be locked away or caged. And I made you all a promise before, and I don't intend on breaking that. Naruto said as he was fully on his feet, not showing any discomfort despite the state he was in. All of them held their hand out. Confused, he looked at them. What is this? You might not want to take our power, but we're giving it to you. You're the only human except for one other who can't be defined as a human anyway, to speak to us as such. And you're willing to free us. And right now, 2 others are being used. And I know that you will do the right thing. But you need power to do so. So go ahead, link your hand with ours, and we shall give you the power that you need to end this once and for all. Kurama said. Naruto looked up towards them. Thank you, he said. Thank you all. As the power surged into him. Back to the present time. Naruto crossed the ocean with speeds that were beyond shocking as Naruto landed beside Itachi and Nagato. The both of them could feel it, being so close. Back up. That was all he said as they jumped away. Red flames left his mouth as Naruto went through hand sign. This time, the manifestation of a dragon erupted from his chakra alone. The dragon was just as large, just as colossal as a Susanoo. The thing opened its mouth and released red flames that encompassed the entire battlefield. The sky, the ocean, the water bubbled before it evaporated. Naruto was burning the literal ocean itself. Every single reanimation, every single zetsu, every single abomination was reduced to ashes. As Naruto dashed forward, ripping souls out the moment they revive as their body reformed. Orochimaru watched as all of his connections were being shattered one after another. The whole place was trembling. What the hell is going on? Kurosaki said, as they had to send someone out there to gain contact. However, every single one of their men were wiped away. Danzo Shimura made his way, the others quickly following behind. As they arrived on the battlefield, every single ninja that were there to fight stood tall and ready. This was a final straw. On the inside though, Danzo was worrying. Things were not working out as he thought. Orochimaru did not come out of his hiding spot. As he watched his reanimations fall one after another, he lost the 4 Hokages within seconds. What the hell? The man thought to himself. As Naruto arrived, Naruto was no longer the same as he stood on a large rock platform, looking down towards the army. He had crossed the ocean in minutes, shocking all of them as he arrived. Danzo spun around, looking fearful as he saw Naruto standing there. The army was composed of over 50,000 plus. Naruto's gaze fell on Baki. Go, now, he said. his voice booming. Everyone wondered who he was until Baki gave the signal as him and his sand ninjas fled. Danzo turned, a dead glare sending in the man's direction, but Baki did not look back. As they head to their home, their people fleeing away. "Look at me," said Naruto. Danzo turned as he faced him. Kurosaki felt like the pressure was just too much for her own body to even move. As Naruto was glowing with a silver aura, his entire body was surrounded by it. His Rinnegan was pulsating, as the chakra seemed to form some kind of cloak around his body that was flowing utterly through him and around him. The sage, mixed with the Rinnegan, his pupil had turned into a plus, with the Rinnegan around it. Naruto stepped down the rock platform crumbling. "I warned you about the past. But even that, because of your position and because of mine, I stood down. I allowed you to get away with what you did to my clan, to my people. The assassination that you ordered for every single one of them." The Konoha ninjas were shocked when they heard that. "I allowed your people to live," he said, looking towards Kurosaki and the representation for Kumo. "Despite the attack that you waged on my people, I allowed you to go on. I allowed you to escape. I was so generous. Despite what you started, despite what I begged to let pass, greed, ambition, power. But this time, I won't allow it to end that way. This time, I'll do what I was plotting to do within the beginning, because this is the only way that I can secure a future for myself and my people. You people want a monster, then fine, I'll give you one." Danzo shouted at them to attack. However, Naruto was done. Going through hand sign, Naruto slammed his hand down. Everyone stopped. "Wood style," said Naruto. "Purgatory. Emergence. Purgatory. A place of death and destruction. It is said to be the mystical place where the dead go. Those that are such abominations that they need to be locked away." As Naruto was performing something that he had made himself, a technique, but with the power now flowing through him, Naruto performed it on the largest scale that he could ever imagine. The entire land platform shook, not just the section that they stood. Everywhere shook. Orochimaru got to his feet where he was. Everyone looked around confused. The sand ninjas had quickly escaped when they felt the shaking sensation. They stopped when suddenly, the ground right in front of Baki erupted. A vine that was so large, it literally blocked out the sun. It was a good thing all of his people were beyond it. Baki stood there shocked. Every single 50,000+, they were all trapped. Naruto had created vines that towered over them and around them, submerging the entire section of this land, the hideout, everything. Orochimaru was running as he was trying to escape. However, he was stopped as a vine so thick that his blade could not even cut. As his blade deflected off the thing, he was confused. It was coursing with so much chakra that its durability was on a completely different level. The sun was blocked out, bathing every single ninja 50,000+ in darkness. As Naruto stood there on the very top, looking down towards them. He stood there. That is when the vine started to enlarge, his hand resting on it. The vines came together and locked. They even went deep underground so no one could escape. Zetsu, who was close by, Watching the action, tried to flee, but he was also caught. Cursing, Zetsu tried to dig and dig and dig, but it went so far. Naruto slammed his hand together. The entire thing started to rise into the heavens. A moon. It looked like a moon. Locked together, the ninjas inside started to panic as they started to violently attack it. However, nothing they did. Danzo took off the gauntlet off his arm as he was sure that he was going to be brought back to the land of the living, when suddenly Naruto appeared in front of him. Danzo opened his mouth to say something as Naruto sliced his right arm off with just waving his hand. He gripped him by the throat and plucked his eye out. Like it was nothing as Naruto tossed him down to the ground. I will not give you the satisfaction of believing that you're nothing more than you are. You will die along with the rest of them. But it won't just be you people, said Naruto. I will not allow the future generation to ever make a move. Never again. A far distance away, Jiraiya of the Sannin was watching everything. Jiraiya had left. Yes, he decided to make a move and he left. He was lost, but he couldn't fight for Danzo anymore. And now Jiraiya watches everything was brought into the sky. A lot of crying was heard from the inside. A lot of panicking, as Danzo was left a bitter mess on the ground. Orochimaru was clashing and slashing, trying to escape, hitting it with his fastest powers, but there was a clone of Naruto that stood there on the top, funneling chakra through it that was given to it, so no one could escape. The thing went as high as it possibly could, as Naruto was situated down below. Naruto held his hands up, as the entire essence that surrounded him started to shrink until it became a tiny ball in the center of his hands. Naruto started to sweat. His body started to tremble. The ball became black, submerged by so much power. The colors overlapped and it became pure darkness. This was the equivalent of, at least, 100 tail beast balls combined together. As Naruto had pumped his own chakra, the tail beasts had not just given Naruto their chakra. Their power combined together had quadrupled the mass, as they had given him what he would need to end this. Naruto held the ball in his hand. Before, he held it to the sky. The weight of the thing seemed to be a huge strain on him. His eyes even reverted back to normal. Naruto fired it. Where did I go wrong? That was Danzo's final words. Orochimaru's final thought was believing that he would escape as he was finally able to break one of the roots, but that was only because the clone was gone. The moment he broke through though, as he saw something, and it hit Zetsu. Eyes widened. Everything went off. There was an explosion that, despite how far Naruto had sent the object, when it hit, every single barrier exploded. There was no barrier that could withstand the force. The village suffered slightly. Glass shattered. Buildings shook. People were sent sailing, as Naruto was thrown away by the own collision of his attack. It was pure mayhem and chaos. Every single one died. Every one of them were immediately eviscerated, just like that. Wiped away from the human race. They were gone. They were dead. The ocean had dropped severely. Yes, it was affected greatly. It took minutes, almost an hour completely, for everything to cease. as Naruto people finally arrive. Upon arriving, they found themselves looking around in desperation and fear. Urza was right there, as she couldn't feel Naruto anywhere. She was looking around, but it was her emotions. Over there! One of the sensors felt something. Immediately everyone rushed. When they saw him, there he was. Naruto was standing tall, gazing up towards the heavens, fully alive despite just creating hell on earth a moment ago. As he stood tall, as he looked towards his people, all of them rushing towards him. A far distance away, Obito arrived. Utterly surprised and shocked. Despite everything that they did, despite all that they tried, every one of them, they all failed. He slowly sucked himself away in a swirling vortex. As there was nothing that he could do right now, Naruto was enveloped by Urza. As their lips intertwined as she kissed him, she thought that he died. She thought the explosion had taken him out, but here he was alive. However, the warm sensation in his eyes, they went away. We're not done yet, he said, as Naruto was not going to let this one go. Time skip. Konoha, unsure what happened. There was a few ninjas left behind. There was a few people there to protect the village as Naruto marched. Yes, however, Naruto was stopped by the nine-tailed beasts. Naruto was confused, not quite understanding. It was Kurama that spoke. Our father told us that someone like you will appear. And you did. However, it's our time. We know what you're going to do, but we won't allow you. Naruto looked at them. We will do it, Kurama said. As he looked at Naruto, you've done enough for your people. Return home and give your people what they desire. Bury your dead. We will make sure that this world is never thrown into conflict ever again. Trust us like we trust you. As Naruto looked at them, they knew what he was going to do. He released a breath as they were stubborn or not, allowing him to go forward. They wanted to be the one to do this. It was time that they stepped in to fix the world as well. He's done enough. As Naruto gave in, the tail beasts did not hold back. Kumo, the stone, Konoha. Naruto was about to wipe every single one of them off the face of the earth. As the tail beasts decided to do that for him, they arrived without a word and they left without a word. They slaughter every last man, woman, and child. There will be no one that will return in the future for revenge. The tail beasts ravage and wipe off the islands. They completely destroy everything. They wiped away the daimyos. The world itself was going to go through drastic and great change as they incinerated everything around. With the power of them gathered, they annihilated everyone that stood in their path. Every single one of them, every man, woman, and child were all gone. The daimyos fell. The structure of those villages fell. All that were left were nothing but utter wasteland. Naruto was about to take all that burden upon himself, but the tail beasts decided to get involved. But they did not remain though. Yes, they did not remain. They returned. They returned towards their home. as they see it now. Returning, the first thing that happened was they bury their dead, saying farewell to the one that they lost on the battlefield. The ones who gave their life fighting for their people, their loved ones. It was a long ceremony of paying all of them utter respect. Time skip. The next few months, a lot happened. First of all, Obito was hunted down. Yes, he was hunted down. There wasn't much place that he could hide, with the entire world now looking for him. It was Nagato and Naruto that were brought there when he was found. He tried to put a good fight, however, he was killed as their final opposition was laid waste. The tail beasts were now free to roam the earth. The land of fire was gone, the land of lightning was gone, the land of earth was also gone as well. The tail beasts were utterly free. Gaara was found. That is where a new peace treaty came in between the Sand and the Uchiha nation. After all that was done to Gaara, he was not in a proper mental state. Therefore, they decided to lend their hand in helping him, as the Sand didn't have what it takes to make sure that Gaara was mentally balanced, as it might turn that he turned against them and wiped them all out. So, Naruto decided to help, as there was many people a part of his village that specialized with the mind. As Gaara started to take sessions, it was difficult to achieve this at first. The boy was not stable. As the tail beast was removed from him, an agreement that was made with the Sand and the Uchiha nation, Gaara was of course kept alive throughout the process, and he was able to return back to his sessions. As for Fu, Naruto had spoken to the girl. She was affected just like Gaara. However, after hearing about her life back in her village, he offered her a chance to stay here instead of going back, a chance to be one of his citizens. The innocent girl did not deserve such a burden. None of them did. They did not ask to become Jinjulikis, nor did the tail beasts ask to be sealed. The girl accepted, preferring to be here, somewhere that she's been kept safe for the past couple of weeks, then going back home. Just like that, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. The time flew by rather quickly. The great nations, that was no longer a term that was used around the elemental nation. A lot has happened in the past couple of years. So much. There were dozens of aircrafts flying through the sky. Over the past years, technology had taken a drastic turn. A turn for the better. People no longer needed to travel far distance to communicate or even to send carrier pigeons. As their technology, their phones, things became more mainstream for everyone that was now residing within the elemental nation. A long time ago, the Sand had joined forces with the Uchiha nation and their united forces. All of the remaining minor nations that weren't a part of it saw. They saw what was going on around the elemental nation. They saw what was bringing peace. A summit was kept, as all the leaders of all the remaining nations came together. As they sat down with Naruto and the others, they were able to come to an agreement. Over the past couple of years, there has been no major wars, no bloodshed, no chaos around the elemental nation. They have been living in peace. A dream that he had so long ago has finally turned into true reality. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard the footsteps, children's calling out, "Grandpa! Grandpa!" He turned with a smile on his face. It was none other than Naruto. He had aged, wrinkles in his face, even his hair showing a bit of white. Running up to him was 3 children, big smiles on their face, 2 boys and 1 girl. It was his grandchildren. As Naruto smiled, kneeling down to envelop all of them in a hug. Things here has also changed as well. It was late, however. It was 3 years after the end of the vicious cycle that Naruto had a little girl who they named Himawari. She was Boruto's younger sister. These kids, they belonged to Boruto. He married a wonderful girl from Kiri and had 3 little angels. His family has grown a lot. It wasn't only his blood family alone either. Mito, she and Sasuke had indeed get married, and they had 2 kids, 2 little boys, 2 very feisty little boys, gaining majority of her personality. As for Itachi, the large family that he was working on, he could comfortably say that he was there, having twins with Izumi. She gave birth after the war. A few months after, young Mikoto had grown rather a lot, turning into a wonderful young woman. She had fell in love with a child of Nagato and Konan, having a wonderful family of their own. As Naruto smiled down towards their grandkids, as the group was just arriving from Kiri, as they held hands as he made his way along with them to go and get them some ice cream and spend some quality time with them. Naruto had retired, as it was time for him to finally rest. After all that he has accomplished, Boruto always wanted to walk within his footsteps, and that he did, training and proving to everyone there. From that day when Naruto told him to stand strong, to give the others hope, it was something that he never forgot, which led to him becoming the next Kinokage of the Uchiha nation, holding the world together in utter peace, with all of the families and countries united. As Naruto could only smile. This is what he always desired. As he made his way, he came across his beautiful wife, just as beautiful as the day that he met her, as the kids had run ahead of her. She smiled seeing him, as they linked hands and made their way. And yeah guys, this one is going to be ending on a rather peaceful note, a wonderful one. So yes, this is the ending guys. I really hope that you guys enjoy. And also, there's no need to be sad because you already know new what ifs are coming up soon, so just sit back, relax, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, I'm out. Peace.